Hi everyone, it's Rachel and Anthony.
Hello.
From Don't Crop Me Now. And today we are going to be doing our plot tour. It's the end of August, it's the 31st of August 2022, and we're going to be showing you some of the really interesting items that we've got coming into full harvest on our allotments here in South Manchester. And that includes really exciting things like this giant cabbage. So we're going to start on plot 2B, and this is our newest plot, and it consists really mainly of the polytunnel you can see behind me, this sort of orchard area, and a fruit cage just to Anthony's left. And I have to say, we're going to show you the real life of allotment here in here. This is not that tidy. In fact, we have not weeded this, I reckon, for well over a month. So you can see there's quite a lot of weeds on here. But because it is quite an organised setup, it's not that bad. And it probably will only take me an hour or so to get this back to looking perfect. And you'll probably find at this time of year that your plots are the same. We've had holidays, we've been really busy, and it's hard to keep up on all those things. But as you can see in the background, this fruit plot is really productive. You can see we've got lots of smaller apple trees, like this tiny one here that is in a pot, and those apples are growing well. We've also got some apple trees behind us. This is sort of a Cox hybrid, Cox type hybrid, and the apples are just about starting to drop now, so they are perfect for picking, and we really need to get on with that picking. Right behind me we have our massive fig tree, and last weekend, the weekend before actually, I took loads of figs off there and I put them in the freezer, and I'm going to use them to make some marmalade, which is a great use for those tasty fruits. But still on there, I have not had a really close look, but I know there are going to be a lot more figs on that tree. If we look into the fruit cage, you can see there's definitely a lot of weeds in here, and you can also see, excuse that flying over there, that's an aeroplane, that we haven't been as hard on picking some of these berries as we should do, and some of these blueberries, because they've all started to ripen up at once, have dropped on the floor. And you know, I like to think we could pick every single item we get on our plot, but it doesn't always work out like that. Other things that have done really well in here is the Victoria plum tree at the back. We picked the rest of those. I actually took some of those on holiday with me, and my family really enjoyed them. So we do need to do quite a bit of tidying up here, but I'm not really going to worry too much about that. Let's show you inside the polytunnel. So the polytunnel is really starting to take off now, and that's really because we've had that little bit of heat. We're also using this polytunnel to dry and cure our onions, as you can see. We've got a separate video about those, but our onions have done absolutely brilliant this year. So let's have a look what we've got growing in here. I tell you what, it's pretty warm in here still. If we look to this side here, then we've got, I don't know, we're probably going to say this wrong again, tomatillo. Yeah, and this has got loads and loads of fruits on. In fact, it's approaching about 5 foot high at the back. So these are much bigger plants than I thought they were going to be. We've never grown these before. We're just going to see how they set fruits. If I have a quick feel of those, I guess, would you call them flowers? I guess they are a type of flower. There is something going on in there. So we've definitely got some fruits. So hopefully I'm going to be making some salsa verde with those. Underneath here we have got a number of peppers, and the really very strange thing is all the ones that are in this area here are actually the same type of pepper. And if you look at this plant, and if we go in, you can see it's got a number of peppers on that look quite nice. Some of them that are just to the right of that plant are diddy little plants. I mean, they are a bit shaded off now by the other plants, but they weren't when they started growing, so I'm not sure why they decided they weren't going to grow, but at least we're going to get some peppers. Behind here we do have some more, that was a massive spider web that I just walked into. We do have some more chili plants in here, and they've started to take off really well, and they are budding up and flowering well too. These ones are definitely behind the ones in the polytunnel because it does not get the same level of heat and also light within this tunnel. Hopefully you can see it's quite dappled really. It's probably about, time's about 4:30, 4:45, and you're not getting that same bright sunlight. So things don't grow in that sort of the same way with these really hot loving plants. However, we have found that cucumbers seem to really like it in here. And as you can see, our cucumbers are up to reaching the ceiling here and are growing. These ones on this side are actually luffers, and these ones on this side are cucumbers. They definitely need a good water. A couple of the leaves are drooping a little bit, but we do have some cucumbers. I don't know if Anthony can get down here, but there are some cucumbers at the back there. And so I imagine over the next probably month, we are going to be picking cucumbers galore, because once they get going, they don't stop. What we've got down here are some of the aubergine plants. I'll be honest, I don't know whether I'm going to bother with aubergines again next year, because in all honesty, we've only ever had decent aubergines once in all our growing time. There's a lot of flowers on these, so if these don't set up pretty soon, I don't think we're going to get much reasonable fruit. And I'm not sure it's worth us using that precious space within this tunnel, because this is only the second season? Yeah, the second season we've had this tunnel. We are still learning really how to grow things in this environment with this amount of light that it gets set up while we have this on plot 2B. So I'm not sure that we'll be using the space in the tunnel for those again. If we have a look at our apricot tree, however, you know what? It's looking really good. It needs pruning down, and that needs to happen pretty soon. But we will prune that down and tie that in, and it seems to be growing really well. So overall, I'm quite happy with everything in here. We've definitely not got 100% hang of everything, but we're getting crops, and that's the main thing.
What's the chilli plant behind you?
This one?
No, behind you at the end.
This one? This one?
Yep.
This is Thai Super Hot. And as you can see, this is full of chilies. They're absolutely everywhere actually. So that's a good plant. That's actually one plant, so you can see that they do get quite big.
Was that one you brought out of the greenhouse?
Yeah, so there was this plant and just this plant here I had to bring out of the greenhouse when we had a bit of sort out in our greenhouse, which is our chili house. We did put another video on about that, and we had to move these out just to physically make more space in there because the plants were going absolutely crazy. So actually, on that note, let's head over to plot 5B and have a look in that chili house. So I'm not going to give a full tour of this chili house because, as I mentioned, we've done a separate video on this. But I'm about 5'3½", apparently 5'3", but it's definitely 3.5. And as you can see, this plant here is just about up to my height. And this is one of the green chilies that we got from Mothin at My Family Garden. So just to give you an idea, the chilies are doing absolutely amazing in there. They are massive and fruiting so prolifically. Prolifically, is that the word? Really pleased with these. And if we move on to the rest of 5B, and let's have a look. We've not got much really going on in these cold frames. A few of the lavender plants which are growing at the end, which I need to find a place for, and a load of strawberry plants that have just made it a little bit wild really. And as you can see on the path, we have not weeded these plots. This for probably at least 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks. Probably not since we did the last video, in all honesty. So you can see there's quite a bit of mare's tail that is popping up in between those slabs. So like I said, if you get in those weeds, try not to be disheartened. Sometimes on YouTube, on social media, people want to give up a pristine view of their allotments. And even what our allotment would be considered, I guess, a very tidy allotment, certainly at this time of year, we struggle to keep up with absolutely everything. This grafted apple tree, however, is doing absolutely brilliantly. And you can see it's pretty big. I think in the last video I said that we were going to do some summer pruning on this, and we haven't had time to do that either. But we do have a good couple of weekends come up where we don't have too much booked in, so we will get on top of all this and get the plot looking super tidy again. So overall, looking really good. If we come round here, you can see behind the apple tree, we have this pear tree. It's a conference pear tree, and it just looks absolutely amazing. The fruits are quite large. I was going to say they are definitely ready to pick. As soon as I put my hand underneath that pear, it came off. If you are growing pears and it's your first year sort of growing pears, or you're new to this, you do need to pick these. Thank you, Anthony, someone's right in my eyes. You do need to pick these when they're not ripe. So this pear, if I squeeze it, is very firm. This is the time to pick these, to put them into storage, and they will ripen in storage. If you leave your pears to ripen on the tree, they will all get ripe very quickly, probably get eaten by wasps, and then drop very quickly too, and you probably won't get much of a crop, which is quite different to apples, which you want to really ripen on the tree. So that's another tip there. I think we'll take this home and we'll put it in the fruit bowl. If we look at the rest of this plot, we've got this Brassica plant. It is a sprouting broccoli plant. We actually took all the seeds that are set from this, and we got a full mug full of seeds. I have no idea what we'd ever use that amount of seeds for. I probably shouldn't have let so many plants really set to seed, but it does show it's quite easy to get your own seed on your allotment to get that sustainable supply. Behind here, we have got some beetroot. It's doing okay. There's some quite nice small beetroots in here, so probably pick those ones quite soon. Other things that we've got in here are, these are just some nice little dwarf sunflowers and some cosmos that were just for decoration really. These cosmos here are not doing too bad. We've got some on the other plot and they've completely dried up because of the weather. And behind here we have some, these are Calabrese broccolis that we've allowed to go to seed. I'm going to keep at least a couple of them for collecting seed. And in here, if we look in there, we do have one cauliflower that is set. That one will go to seed if we don't pick that soon, so we need to grab that. So these are cauliflowers. They're a purple type of cauliflower. One of the really interesting things that we grow on our plots is beans for drying, and I know that's quite unusual to do that in the UK, but I want to show you some of these dwarf beans that we've got if Anthony looks down here. As you can see, on this side they're still quite green, but just behind they have started to dry out and they are completely full with bean pods. We get really good success with growing beans for drying here in the UK. We grew something crazy like 14 kilos of dried beans last year. Look up the video if you want to know about that. So I would really recommend having a good go at that. Behind here, and this is another thing, funny thing that happened, this is just a runner bean. As you can see, there's lots of runner beans right at this top here, which will be ready for picking within a week or so. There's more here that are ready for picking. We tend to eat more of these as dried beans rather than actually as fresh pods. But I was saving this sunflower here because this is one that's self-seeded and it looks like really cool. There's quite a nice big head on it, I thought. And obviously I did not get in here soon enough because, as you can see, all the seeds are starting to drop and this entire bed is full with sunflower seeds. I mean, I know the squirrels will have a good go at eating them and some of the birds, but I know that in this bed we are going to have loads of seeds that are going to come up. So what I'll try to do is sort of rake them all up so there's not as many, and then I guess we'll just have to mush them out and pull them out. Something that's not been an amazing success, mainly because I didn't have time to deal with these before I went on holiday, is I bought a load of plug plants from a brilliant company actually called Cabbages.co.uk. It might be .com, but I think it's .co.uk. We're not affiliated to them in any way, but they sell really good quality, mainly Brassica type plants. And I find it good to buy those winter ones because when you start them off in your greenhouse at this time of year, if your greenhouse is open, cabbage white will get in there and you'll have caterpillars all over them. So I tend to often buy them because it's just a cheap way of doing it. And I sort of joined together with a few plot holders around us. We bought like a mass set and then I had to stick them all in here because we were going away, and they look really sad. I mean, I think some of them are alive, but we'll see. They're in little clumps. They need sort of putting out. We'll try that at the weekend, and you know what, if they die off, I'll have to buy some more. Just over here behind me, we've got lots more of our different types of beans. And now the really hot weather has just started to sort of cease really. The beans are setting pods. Like for example, you can see here, there are loads of beans and all the bean plants are actually doing really well now. This one here that's falling over, these are kidney beans, these. And it says that they are like a dwarf type of bean, but last year I decided they weren't really a dwarf bean because they grew at least 4 foot. But as you can see here, I think I just haven't tied them in, they just don't climb. But there's still quite a lot of beans on there, which is sort of cool. But there's all different types of varieties. We've got these ones, another bed behind us, and there's even more on plot 4 as well. Looking behind in this bed here, this is one of our salad beds. We've got this is a perpetual spinach, decided that it's going to start to go to seed, so I'll pull that off. Good tip, if you start seeing that, just pull them off because you don't want to leave those in. You want to try and get the plant to stop going to seed. We do have some really good beetroot in behind there, and just behind there is some fennel, which I let go to seed on purpose because I'm growing that for the seed. I say that, I didn't do it in the first instance, but as soon as it started to seed, I thought it was a great idea. So I'm going to collect that seed to restock with us because I didn't pick them in time. There's still a few onions actually behind there that which you didn't manage to get out. Just forgot, I guess. Then we've got our main brassica bed here, and there's lots of different things in here. Some of the cabbages that are on this edge here, the slugs have had a great big munch on these, probably because they should have been picked weeks ago and we haven't managed to do it. So I will look at those at the weekend. I might have to compost some of them, but I might be able to salvage some of the centres of those. But if we get in here, there are some really nice red cabbage. You can see at the back here that look just about perfect. And I probably pick those, I think it's about 6. Pick those, and I think I'll probably predominantly pickle those for winter. Right on the other side over there, we have got Brussels. They look really healthy and are looking good too. And then if we look behind me, when I say behind me, it's sort of behind me, to the right, in front, and absolutely everywhere. We have got this gourd plant, which you can see is growing over here. Apparently this is a fig leaf gourd. I guess it makes sense if you look at the leaves, they do look like fig leaves. And this is doing really well. I didn't know if we were going to get any fruits on here, but over the last week, they seem to have appeared. So if we walk around the other side, we'll have a look at some of the fruits. I don't really have much idea what we're going to use these for because I've never grown them before. I do believe they are also called shark fin melon, particularly more, I believe, in sort of Chinese cultures and Chinese cooking. If we have a look in here, you can see, there we go, what they look like. That's quite a small one. I do believe they grow very large, but that's one plant, which is crazy. I don't know how many fruits it's got on there, but I think quite a lot. So we're going to have to look at some recipes on how to use these. So if you grow any of these fig leaf gourds, or also called shark fin melons, and you have good recipes to use these, then do let us know in the comments and we'll have a go at some of those. Other than that, really, we have one last thing to show you that's a crop on this plot, and this is right over the other side, so Anthony will have to follow me through. Try not to trip over all the bits of bricks. And here, if I move this forward so Anthony can see really well, is our Malabar spinach, which is a climbing plant. I don't think it's the same family as spinach, but it's similar to a spinach type plant. I just tasted a leaf off that, and you know, it tasted really nice. It's a bit thicker than a spinach leaf, but it was very like mild. It didn't really taste of anything strong in flavour. So I'm going to try them maybe in some curries. Hopefully they will keep going until the frosts appear. But I'm really pleased with these because I didn't know we'd get any of them if we didn't grow them specifically in the polytunnel. Obviously it is in this sort of poly cube, so it's got a plastic back, front and sides. Although on this we've had this netted area, so it's not fully plastic. But you know, it's done pretty well, so I'm actually quite happy with that. So it'll be interesting again, if you grow that and you've got any recipe ideas, then do let us know. So now we'll just look on our last plot, which is our main plot, which is plot 4. So let's start plot 4 with this giant cabbage, and I'll put my hand in here so it can give you an idea of the scale. It is about at least, is that a foot? At least a foot, probably a bit more than a foot in diameter. So this is a massive cabbage. It's hearted up really well. The size of the plant is at least probably over 3 foot in diameter because it's pushing out the sides of this bed, which is a 6 by 3 foot bed. There's another one in here, which is again hearted up quite well. It's not quite so big. It's probably about that big. I have no idea what we are going to use this cabbage for, because I imagine it could easily feed like 80 to 100 people as a part of a side dish for a main meal. I think what I might try to do with at least one of them is look for some sort of charity that might be interested in using that as a part of a cook-up really, and we might use the other one to make some sauerkraut. If I don't find that, I'll probably chop it up and share it around people like friends and family, because this is a crazy amount of cabbage. And when you start looking at some of the other cabbage that we've also got on our plot here on plot 4, we are going to be cabbaged out. It's literally full of cabbages. And you probably find that happens. Things tend to sort of ripen up and get going at the same time. No matter how much you try to stagger your harvest, then nature often just does its own thing. If we have a look here to my right, which is Anthony's left, we do have some small little leek plants. And we put these in as a really late crop. They've only been in a couple of weeks. I'm not sure how big they're going to get. They went in quite late, but they're a really sturdy winter crop. And it's a great crop to put in as a second planting within the season. So you know what, they've all perked up, so they look pretty good. I'm sure they will thicken up quite well if we get a little bit of rain. And even as sort of pencil or baby links, they are a great crop, and it's a really good way to use space where you have harvested things already. Talking about that massive gourd plant we have over there, behind me we have some massive squash plants. They're not the same group of plants, I don't believe, although they're very similar. They look similar, but they're not the same scientific group, I don't believe. We have loads and loads of pumpkins in here. You can see a nice little orange one there. That's a red curry type. Can we see that?
Just about.
Yeah,
Got it.
a red curry type squash. There's a lot of them in there. And if we have a look just there, you can see that blue one. That is a crown prince. There's quite a few of them in there, and they are one of my favourite squash. One, they are massive, so you don't need to have many of them. They store really, really, really well, and they're a really tasty winter squash. They taste quite similar to a sort of sweet potato type flavour as opposed to a more watery pumpkin. So they're a really great squash to grow if you're thinking about getting into squash growing. But as you can see, they're very big plants, and I have been cutting back a few of the runners on these because they were taking it a bit for freedom over the path. So again, great for ground cover if you've got a big area and you want to use that up. And if you're growing squash, they're always good to give away in the winter or keep through till spring. Just here we have more beans, and it doesn't look like on here that there's a huge amount of beans, but as soon as you start moving those leaves, you will see that there are actually beans everywhere. So this alone will be a brilliant yield of beans for drying. These peas, they started to dry out, and so I decided I'm just going to let them all dry out and collect them for seed. It was the dry and hot weather that really got those. So we did have a decent harvest off those peas before they did dry out like that. You can see that these are just about ready for picking. You can hear that the seeds are dry within the pods. If you're wanting to keep either for seeds for growing or for dried beans or peas for eating to keep over the winter, you need to let them dry on the plant so they are like this, nice and crispy, and then you can take them off, leave them on a tray or something for a couple of weeks in your house to make sure that they are 100% dry for storage. So we probably can pick these ones pretty soon. If we look behind Anthony, there's not much left here, but we do have 3 tubs of the Charlotte early potatoes that haven't been picked. This is the first year in I don't even know how long that we haven't had blight, because usually here in South Manchester it's raining more often than not, This year we've had the hot weather, we've had very little rain, and that's actually been really good for our potato crops. And I've had to put these on top of this because if Anthony gets close, you can see some holes in there, and the squirrels like to get in there and dig to start burying, and they'll dig the potatoes out whilst they're doing that. So that's why I've covered those up. So there's only 3 of those left. You can store the Charlotte potatoes because they are actually a second early. So I think I will keep a few of them just to see how they go. We do have more potatoes, however, on 5B, so we're definitely not going to run short. If we come back into this, we've got more beans, beans everywhere. This one is one that was given to us by one of our plot neighbours called Neil. He bought a load of beans seeds, planted them all himself, and then they unfortunately all died off, and he just gave us the last 10. So I put them in here. They're a French variety, I can't remember the name, but I'll get it on the screen, and they're meant to taste a bit like chestnut. That's the idea of the beans, and he was really keen to grow those. So now hopefully we should have good stock of them, so I can reshare them back with Neil, and hopefully he'll have more success next year. And here we are with more cabbages. So if we come in here and see, you see that's a big hearted up cabbage. It's a good cabbage size, and we probably have probably 9 cabbages, I imagine, in this area here. And these are Savoy cabbages. So like you can see, the crops often come all at once. So we need to do something with these crops. One tip for storing cabbages is, surprisingly, they keep very well if you take out some of the older leaves and put them in a cold storage in a garage, particularly if you leave the root on and hang them upside down. They will keep for quite some time if it's cool. If you don't have a cool place to store them, then you can just sort of cut all the leaves off, take them down to that heart of that cabbage and put them in your fridge, and they will last at least probably 12 to 15 weeks just in your fridge. It's just that it takes up a lot of room, so that storing in the garage does work very well. Binders, we have our sweet corn. It's not grown the best, and as you can see, there's not that much corn on it. That is because the squirrels have eaten it all. However, I have noticed in here that there are 2 little bits of corn. While saying that, it's deceptive. They've chewed the other side of that corn. So from this corn harvest, I'm pretty sure we've got near 0 sweet corns. I'm not sure whether we'll grow sweet corn again. I mean, it is the most tasty crop if you grow yourself, but we have this happening most years. I've tried growing it in the polytunnel last year and it did well, but it didn't pollinate that as well because it's wind pollinated, and I had to try and simulate that wind to be able to get the pollination going. Then whenever we put them outside, we have this problem with the squirrels. So unless I'm going to get some sort of cage structure, a bit like a brassica cage or a fruit cage, I'm not sure we're ever going to get reliable corn harvest. So I'm going to make my mind up whether I'm going to buy some sort of structure where we could grow corn, which I might do. I don't think it'd be that expensive, and if we keep reusing it, either that or I'm going to give up on corn on the allotment. So we'll have a think about that over winter. Looking in on here, and for a size comparison, I will put my hand in and stand close. We have literally overgrown courgette mania. So this is because I've been away for a week and I didn't pick them all beforehand, and there obviously were a few in there, and they are massive. And this is not our only courgette plant. There's one here, and there's at least 2 or 3 more in different parts of the plot. So I have no idea what we're going to do with all these. Probably make some fritters, courgette fritters, maybe some chutneys and some jams. Probably a few little cheese chili balls. They're a good base for that. We've got a recipe on our YouTube for that, which is a really tasty snack. But yeah, I mean, I think the chickens might enjoy a couple of these as well. And then behind, we've got even more squash. So in there are some butternut squash in there and some more of those small red curry type squashes. I don't know how many have set within that structure. I know it looks like it's growing really well, but butternut squash are very late setters for us here in the northwest, and I've never had brilliant success with them. I've had butternut squash, but not some of these big massive ones that sometimes I see other people posting. So if we keep on with some reasonable sunny weather, we might do, I don't know. So I do keep trying because I really like the squash. And then the squash that's bidding for freedom is over these potato plants. And as you can see, these ones actually still look pretty healthy. they're starting to die back over there. I think really over the next 1 to 2 weeks I'm going to chop these back, whether they're died off or not. I don't think the potatoes are going to put on that much more growth, and if we start getting this wet weather we're going to risk blight, and when the potatoes are starting to die down with their natural dieback, which is what you see here, they're really susceptible to blight. So probably over the next 1 to 2 weeks I'll keep an eye on the weather, and I'll probably chop these back and we can keep them in the tubs for storage. If we look over here, oh my word, this is growing now. Hadn't seen that. So this one is the round, oh that feels really weird that. They're a really soft hairy leaf. That actually, I've never seen these before, I've never grown these before. That's really surprised me. That is very different to a courgette or a squash plant, which are sort of really prickly and a bit irritant to your skin. That's really surprised me. But I thought this was completely dead. It is growing. Whether we're going to get any fruits on that, I doubt it at this time of year. But you know what, I'm going to let it grow, see if it'll grow up my arch and it'll look pretty. The sweet peas are going to seed, starting to dry out. We will collect the seed for next year, so we'll leave those and let them dry out naturally. Behind here, we have got some celeriac plants in the back. They've got a good amount of top growth now. Hopefully they will start to fill up if we get a lot of rain. And under here we have got some kohlrabi plants. Oh yeah, which are just about ready to pick actually. So it's doing okay. As you can see, there's a lot of weeds around here. They need pulling out, but like I said, we haven't weeded for probably a month or more really. So the rest of the plot is looking good. We've got a few more courgette plants. Those ones are starting to die down, but there's a few giant courgettes even within those. The raspberries are doing really well. They're really right into their fruiting now. These are autumn raspberries, so they should be starting to fruit around now up to November and the frosts. These are really productive plants. This row has particularly been in here probably at least 12 years, I think. But they're looking really good. I have tried to tie these up a little bit because if not, they just fall out completely over the path. So that will be a job over the next couple of weeks to keep on the top of picking that, as long with picking all those blueberries that we've got in the fruit cage. If we head round here, we have got more potatoes. Again, these are starting to die back quite naturally. And you can see here where we've had a little bit of seeds in the compost, is definitely, that's a brassica. That one there's some sort of brassica, I have no idea what it is. Coming up in between them, these are actually Jerusalem artichokes that they weren't in this bed, they were in a tub that was right here. But when I emptied the tub, I emptied it onto there, and there must have been tiny ones that are left. So I'm hoping that I'll get them out when I actually clear this plot off, because I don't want them to come back in that bed. It took us a long time to clear those off 5B when we took that plot off, so I don't want to end up with another patch. I mean, they're quite pretty plants, but we don't really like them. They don't really taste that great to us, so it's a pointless plant for us to have really. So these are all potatoes, and you can see the ones here that have died down quite well. So it obviously depends very much on variety. All the way along here, which is our Dahlia patch, they're starting to pick up now a little bit actually. I have to say that the Dahlias, to start off with this year, our plants grew really well, but because it was so dry and hot, it's like they got dried out and bleached on the plant. So we got a lot of really pale looking Dahlias, and they didn't look that pretty. But now it's starting to grow back again. I mean, it needs a good deadheading because we haven't been spending enough time at the plot to keep it looking really good. But again, that's something that we can do at the weekend. And like I said, this is a true look at an allotment. We've hardly done anything weeding wise, except from picking a few crops for quite some time. And you can see what happens when you have a sort of no dig plot. It does sort of stand pretty well. Right behind me, the lavender is coming to a finish. We definitely need to have a good prune of this lavender. This is the time to cut down your lavender once it has flowered, and we will need to do that as well. our little pond here is looking all right, isn't it? There's a lot of stuff in there. I might have to, this chamomile is starting to take over a bit. I think I might need to cut some of that stuff that's hanging into the water, but I wanted a bit of a more soft edge so it's easy for things to get in and out, like the wildlife and the invertebrates and things. So I'm quite pleased with how that's sort of turning out, but I think we do need to do a bit of maintenance on that. This is the only cosmos on this plot here that's done okay. I think it just got way too dry in this little stone area. So this last year was like right up here, like full of cosmos, and it hasn't done as well. But you know what? Every year you get good things and bad things. Behind here, underneath here, we have Swedes that we put in not very long ago, I think a couple of weeks. And I sowed these direct in a line and then I sort of pricked them out. Haven't looked at this since, so hopefully I can see green stuff. Hopefully it's not all weeds. Can Anthony get down there? Yeah, they're doing all right. They're definitely good Swede plants now. So it needs a weed in there, but there's Swedes in there. Swedes and weeds, but mainly Swedes, so that's good. So yeah, quite happy with them. So we'll have to weed that, but that's part of the game, isn't it? If we come over to here, we've got, this was a late sowing of beetroot, looking pretty good actually. If you look in, you can see there are some smaller beetroots there, some bigger ones there at the back. So they're doing okay. More courgette plants. Anthony comes in and have a look at these ones. Look at them. These are yellow ones. And the plants themselves actually look really, really healthy. Often at this time of year, because it's starting to get wet, we have a lot of the sort of white or grey mould that you get on these types of plants, and we haven't really got any. But we've got a lot of courgettes, probably too many. A lot of our pots or flowers are starting to go to seed, again because they've probably not been watered enough when we're away. But these marigolds are really good to collect seed from. They're nearly dry there. Not that one, let's try that one. That's a dry one. And if I pull that out there, they are all perfect seeds for sowing. So again, another thing, it's really easy to collect seeds from if you're growing flowers. Our little carrot bed is it's looking really weedy, to be honest. There's actually, if Anthony goes in and looks through the window side there, there's some good carrots in there at the edge. But a few of them have gone to seed. I'm going to leave that. So see if I can collect any seed. But there are some carrots in there. And other than that, let's have a look at the parsnips. I'm really squinting away here. It's a really annoying amount of sun. So parsnips are looking absolutely brilliant. Really good. Such a reliable crop for us. Lasts right through the winter. And this is more than enough parsnips that we can eat. Too many, if anything. And there's a few more sunflowers behind there that are not tied in well, so they're sort of starting to fall over a bit, but you know, they've done their job. They look pretty. In the background we've got some of the giant sunflowers. I will stand in next to them for scale. So they're pretty big. I don't know how big that one is.
12 foot.
Something like that, yeah. Probably. So they're looking really pretty good. And other than that, we've got this tree here, the Bramley apple tree. Again, it's starting to drop its fruit everywhere. It really needs picking. If Anthony has a look at the floor, in between the weeds, you can see lots and lots of apples. So I think this might have to be one of our jobs this weekend, really. So if you've enjoyed the tour today, please like, comment and subscribe to our channel. It only takes a minute, but it really helps us. So take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.